What are human factors and how do they arise? The story starts with a process of evolution. 3.5 billion years ago, life started. We stopped being solely chemistry and became biology. For the greater part of the time since then, our antecedents have changed incrementally, with every living thing trying to establish and sustain an evolutionary niche. Around us, other biological forms in all their glory and in all their variety have been making incremental changes too, in their quest to survive and thrive. Fast forward to about 13 million years ago, and there were multiple life forms, and we find our single common ancestor with the rest of the primates. About 6 million years ago, we had a single common ancestor with chimpanzees. That primate evolutionary tree has split, and now, as Homo sapiens, we consider ourselves pretty much top of the pile. The consequence of evolutionary competition is stark. In the world of predator and prey, speed becomes important. For the predator, too slow and you go hungry. For the prey, too slow and you're taken out of the gene pool. Relative speed is important in both cognitive and physical responses. The need for speed sometimes leads to quick and dirty solutions. We're familiar with the notion of the flight or fight response, but informing that physical response is a cognitive process which cannot agonize about the significance of every scrap of information when taking decisions. High-speed decision-making needs patterns and shortcuts. We will look at different ways of coming to conclusions and making decisions in a later module. About 1 million years ago, there is evidence that our direct ancestor, Homo erectus, started using fire. About 12,000 years ago, crude clay pots allowed Homo sapiens to boil water and cook vegetables. One hypothesis is that continuous improvements in dietary content changed the microbiome in the gut. This led to changes in the micronutrients in the blood, which in turn led to brain development and sped up cognitive development. And this is where the problem arose. While all of the other creatures were happy to live in the moment and take the world as it was, Homo sapiens decided to change the world, but not in a gentle evolutionary way, but in a revolutionary one. They stopped being hunter-gatherers and became farmers. They ceased being nomadic and became settled. Instead of living in family groups, they came together in large groups, mixing with others who were not family. Settlements grew into towns and then cities. They started making tools and, more importantly, making tools to make tools. This produced an ever-increasing vortex of change. The agricultural revolution, the cognitive revolution, the industrial revolution, and eventually the information revolution. All of this revolutionary change occurring at an increasing speed, certainly faster than the brain could keep up with in terms of its evolutionary development. By the present day, we find ourselves as Homo sapiens sitting on top of the pile in a world that is principally built by Homo sapiens. The physical, interpersonal and intellectual environments and much else are man-made. Within each Homo sapiens is a Paleolithic creature with evolutionary adaptations bursting to get out. In evolutionary terms, 21st century man is perfectly adapted to a time that no longer exists. We live in a highly complex world built by intellect. It is intellect that allows us to survive and thrive in the world that we have built. The tension between the evolutionary process, which made us predisposed to respond in certain ways, and the cognitive adaptation, which is necessary for our existing high-tech world, is a challenge. These two responses are so profoundly different that if we choose the wrong one, the outcome is heavily compromised. Unfortunately, it's not an even battle. Our evolutionary adaptation is effortless, unseen, and extremely quick, while our intellectual response is effortful, deliberate, and slow. Much of what we refer to as human factors is about this battle. The battle between intellect and instinct, the social me and the professional me, the evolutionary predisposition and the revolutionary adaptation. The academic discipline, which covers human factors, is more properly called ergonomics. Ergonomics has a huge breadth. For professionals, it relates to the physical workplace and the working environment. It relates to the design and use of tools and technology within that working environment. It relates to the systems and processes of work which allow us to complete tasks. But also it relates to our interaction with the environment, our interaction with the tools and technology, our willingness and ability to conform to the needs of the systems and processes of work, our willingness and ability to manage relationships with other people that we work with, and lastly, our willingness and ability to self-manage and self-regulate. All in all, an utterly huge and complex conundrum.